I'm quite surprised to hear about this tragic accident this morning because, to be perfectly honest, the protocols involved in having firearms on set are very strict. Uh, I've never experienced what I would consider to be reckless behavior with firearms on set. And I know after the Brandon Lee shooting in 1993 that things improved dramatically, I must admit. You can't even have a replica weapon or a dummy weapon on set now without having a licensed armorer. Obviously, these rules and regulations change depending on the region of the world you're working in. I'm very fortunate, I work all over the world. And I do see that these strict rules of having firearms on sets are not the same in every country. I can't speak for what happens in the state of New Mexico. I've worked in the US, of course, and I must admit, I've always found the safety protocols involving weapons, certainly in the US, to be very strict and very well adhered to. So my actual role in the film and TV industry is a second unit director, second unit DOP. So I'm responsible for action sequences, both from a directorial sense and from a photographic sense. And as someone who operates a camera as well occasionally, I'm pretty close to the action, as it were. I must admit, on some of the sets I've been on, we've had upwards of 100, maybe 150 weapons. And the safety protocol on something of that size is much, much greater, of course, because you have many more weapons, people are running around. And as a camera operator, you would be in the line of the gunshot. We've all seen the very famous shots in films where you get that dramatic effect of a gun being pointed at you, the audience, and of course it's being pointed towards the camera. To minimize that, one would put a remote camera in that place, or at least if someone does have to operate the camera, I'm normally protected by safety goggles, a safety visor, and often a perspex screen that withstands pretty much anything. Obviously, it wouldn't withstand a real shot from a gun, but it would certainly withstand a blank. I can't speculate about the level of budget of the film that the accident happened on. But what I would say is it's not necessarily a budgetary restraint, it's to do with time. And I've experienced, and I'm not saying I've experienced this in relation to the use of firearms, but certainly if the light's going, if an actor is getting tetchy, then one is, shall we say, encouraged to speed things up a bit. And that is obviously a time when an accident is likely to happen or something's likely to go wrong. And again, I'm not saying for a moment that this could be the reason behind this, but it's certainly something that anybody like me that works in film and TV on a day-to-day basis has certainly experienced many, many times. It could be the fact that safety protocols were, shall we say, relaxed for a moment simply because the light was going, or as I say, there was another extraneous reason why things had to be speeded up. There is a protocol now. In fact, I did a TV show for one of the streamers in Netflix for the first 5 months of this year. And that involved lots of firearms in the Spanish capital of Madrid. And we were encouraged not to use blanks, but to rely on visual effects in post to create whatever effect we wanted from a particular firearm, with the actor miming the recoil from the gun, and it works very well. Obviously, it adds, and your earlier point about the budget restraints on certain shows and certain productions, that does come into it. So it's easier and perhaps more economic to actually discharge a weapon on set using a blank. The problem with blanks is, of course, and this is taking your question a little further, I know, but the problem with blanks is, of course, is something is emitted from the gun. Something does come out of the gun when you fire a blank. It doesn't go very far, and often it's not very powerful. However, if it is a badly made blank, a faulty blank, it could be anything, could be two blanks. I believe there are instances where a blank has been stuck in a barrel and another blank has been fired, and of course the charge comes out as much more powerful than one was expecting. So that could be a reason. There are many reasons, none of which we know, of course, why this tragic accident would have happened. What surprises me is that two people were injured, sadly one fatally, and that does puzzle me, I must admit. A blank would have to be pretty powerful to injure two people, yet alone kill someone. So I've experienced this where period weapons are used, which are often period weapons. They genuinely are weapons of the period. And if a budget doesn't allow for it, you cannot manufacture those weapons. You have to use actual historic period weapons. And to check the safety of those weapons, I have known live rounds to be fired out of revolvers, certainly, to make sure that they do function in a way that when you put a blank in it, it isn't going to blow up or explode in the actor's hand. So there is a theory, of course, and I've just read a theory that maybe a live round was left in the gun. I mean, it would be inconceivable to me that that could happen, but it is another possibility, sadly.